We hosted the panel on equity release, the equity release panel. So I hosted that, and the whole point of that was really for anybody in the audience that was either doing equity release or considering equity release to walk away thinking, wow, I need to be doing something more, and I've learned something today. So we had a great amount of panellists on there, from lenders to advisory firms, and we tried to cover what's good about this sector, why it should be part of your toolkit, and hopefully dispel some of the myths about equity release. So the reasons for wanting to consider equity release is we've got a much ageing population. We've seen pension pots decrease, and we've got many people with assets, their biggest assets, their home. So we've got to be able to leverage that without feeling guilty about it, and that's where later life lending comes in, not just equity release, but perhaps the retirement interest only mortgage market as well. Why I think it's really important to consider that is you've got many people who don't have affordability. So when they're looking at mortgages, they might have a mortgage coming to an end. It's really important that they have options for alternatives, and that's where equity release comes in. And I think the product has changed significantly. I think if you were looking at a product 20 years ago, it's very, very different to what it is today. I think the product safeguards that come with being an Equity Release Council member are fantastic. So you've got a no negative equity guarantee. You've got tenure for life, which means that your home can't be repossessed. You've got the ability to move properties, unless it's a yurt in the middle of a field. You know, we might have lenders with a bit of a difficulty with that one. The rate will either be fixed or capped for life. And I think the most important one was the one that the Equity Release Council launched last year, which was the every product now has to have the ability for overpayments. So you can actually make payments without penalty, up to a limit, up to a lender criteria. But that's a chance to offset the interest. So one of the biggest negative connotations about equity release previously was the fact that interest always rolled up. Well, now every customer has the ability to actually offset some of that interest and reduce it. When you want to advise on equity release or home reversion, you need to have additional qualifications. So it's a couple of exams more. So you would be looking to do an exam through the LIBF or the CII and be equity release qualified. You also need to have additional permissions through the FCA. But the reason for that is it is towards more vulnerable customers. So every lifetime mortgage, every equity release has to be advised. There's no option for a customer to go on and choose it. You know, there has to be advice. And more importantly, again, another big consumer protection is the fact that every equity release sale has to have independent legal advice. And they're checking for things like capacity and understanding and duress to make sure that the customer really understands exactly what it is they're taking. Might not be right for every client, and I'm not going to sit here today and say that absolutely, but it should be part of the toolkit, and it should be part of a package that you look to consider. And that's why getting to know your customer and finding out what their long-term aims are, what their income, what their expenditure, what their options are. It might not be right. It might not be right for them right now. There might be a better alternative for them, in the short term. But it's something to always consider and have in the back of your head. And if you can't advise on it and you don't have the qualifications, it's really important to put a referral pathway in place so that you can refer to someone who can do it if it's something that you think is available for your customers.